Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Indian politics saw a Friday blockbuster today with the disqualification of Rahul Gandhi as a member of parliament. But that's not our top story. We want to focus on India's crackdown on Khalistanis. A case has been filed against those who attacked the Indian mission in London. A case has been filed against them in New Delhi. It's perhaps the first of its kind move. Meanwhile, the tech world is in turmoil. Tens of thousands of jobs are being lost. We'll bring you a special report on the Great Layoff. Another truce in West Asia without America's involvement. Saudi Arabia and Syria are restoring ties. Russia is brokering the deal and the US is being further marginalized. In France, the protests have turned violent. Public fury has led to fires. The King of Britain has had to reschedule his trip after protesters refused to give red carpets for his welcome. We also have an exclusive interview on the show. The president of Malawi will talk about the longest storm ever in recorded history. It has hit his country. And Cleanfluencers are sweeping the internet. We'll discuss why they're such a big hit. The headlines first. More turmoil in the banking sector. Deutsche Bank shares plunge, falling by more than 13%, fueling concerns about the stability of European banks. In India, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has been disqualified as a member of parliament. This comes a day after he was convicted in a defamation case over Prime Minister Modi's surname. Is the Israeli Prime Minister facing revolt from within his coalition? Benjamin Netanyahu summons his defense minister after reports say that the minister wants to halt the PM's judicial reform. Pakistan's defense minister slams Imran Khan for his hypocrisy over the US. This is after reports say that the PTI has hired a US lobbying firm. Remember, Imran Khan had blamed a US conspiracy for his ouster from office. And Denmark invites Russia-controlled Nord Stream operator to help recover a mystery object. It was President Putin who revealed its discovery earlier this month. Parts of the pipeline were sabotaged 6 months ago. Now, India has taken a major step to crack down on the Khalistanis. Police in New Delhi have booked Khalistanis in London for terrorism. They are the ones who attacked the Indian High Commission in London this week. While the Rishi Sunak government promised action, the Modi government does not seem to be in the mood to wait and watch. So the Khalistani mob, which attacked India's London mission last weekend, has been charged under 2 Indian laws: the Prevention of Damage to Public Property Act and the far more serious one called UAPA, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Now, UAPA allows India to imprison individuals without trial or bail. The Delhi police, who brought these terror charges against the Khalistani attackers, report to India's Ministry of Home Affairs. And the Home Ministry gave the nod after consulting with the External Affairs Ministry. So how can India slap a terror case on Khalistanis living in London? That's because these individuals are Indian nationals. So cases have been filed. Now what happens next? Can these Khalistani attackers be brought to India and tried here? That's what New Delhi plans to do. The Modi government has asked the UK to deport these individuals.
We expect that host governments will take action to identify and prosecute all those involved, and also take necessary measures to prevent the recurrence of such incidents. We would hope host governments provide full and adequate protection to our missions as well as to the personnel working there. We are not interested in just assurances. I think we would like to see action.
Remember, the attackers were all caught on camera. They've now been identified. They have Indian passports, have even been seeking asylum in the UK. They claim they're facing political persecution in India. Well, you can't expect a red carpet treatment if you engage in anti-India activities and support a violent separatist movement. The government of India works for law-abiding citizens, not for those wreaking terror and havoc on Indians and Indian institutions abroad. So far, the UK has not granted them asylum, but the fact that they thrive on British soil has earned London a lot of flack. The attack on the Indian High Commission has put them on the back foot.
The Right Honourable Lady will be aware of a protest that took place outside the Indian High Commission last Sunday, which turned violent, and staff working for the High Commission were injured there, and the Commission itself was vandalised. Now, I'm sure the whole House will agree that there should be no place in our country for such behaviour, and that the Indian High Commissioner and his staff should be able to go about their diplomatic duties without fear of such events happening. So can she tell the House what further steps the Home Office will take, working with the Metropolitan Police, to ensure that there is no repeat of such behaviour?
This is what UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly said, and I'm quoting. "We will always take the security of the High Commission of India and all foreign missions in the UK extremely seriously and prevent and robustly respond to incidents such as this." It says nothing of how serious the situation was, and this is the best that he could manage days after the attack took place. Conservative Party MP Bob Blackman was more forthright in calling a spade a spade. He said the attack was a disgrace to the UK. Let me quote from what he said. "The hooliganism of Khalistani hooligans outside the Indian High Commission on Sunday is a disgrace to this country." He also said, "Khalistani militants are operating across the world. Canada, the US and Australia saw similar attacks over the weekend. We are harboring Khalistani terrorists in this country right now. Can we have a debate in government time on what action we can take to ensure that these terrorists are held to account and banned in this country?" India could not agree more. This is what the Modi government has been calling on Britain, the US and Canada to do for years now. In April 2022, then British Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a promise. He was travelling to India then, and during the visit he announced that the UK had set up an anti-extremist task force. That task force seems to be in cold storage now, much like Johnson's political career. But the big question is this: will the UK walk the talk? Will the Rishi Sunak government deport these Khalistanis unleashing terror abroad? This won't be a first if they do it. This has happened before. In December 2022, India's National Investigation Agency arrested Bikramjit Singh in Vienna, Austria. Who is Bikramjit Singh? The alleged mastermind behind the 2019 Taran bomb blast in Punjab. Austria extradited him. If Austria could do it, why not the UK? And that too with an Indian origin Prime Minister at the helm. New Delhi has made its intent clear by its tough stance. It will not allow the perpetrators of the London attack to go unpunished. But which side will London choose? The UK's response to India's deportation request might hold the answer. Tonight, let's talk about the Great Layoff. 200,000 and counting. That's the number of tech workers who've been fired this season. How many of these are from India? Going by one estimate, anywhere between 60 and 80,000 workers in India lost their jobs, and it's not over yet. More companies are firing people. The latest one is Accenture. Accenture is an IT services and consultancy company. It will cut 19,000 positions. This will be over a period of 18 months. And Accenture has a major presence in India. 40% of its talent pool is based in India. There are more than 300,000 employees in total. It's not yet clear how many of them will lose their jobs. They haven't shared the specifics on the impact on their India operations yet. But why did Accenture order the layoffs? The reasons are the same. There's economic unpredictability. New business is hard to come by, so companies are cutting costs, and this has been the trend in the last 6 months at least. Tech companies are under pressure. They're no longer immune to geopolitical instability and economic slowdowns. In 2022, 1,052 tech companies cut jobs. 1,052. They fired more than 160,000 people. What about this year? So far, 522 tech companies have announced layoffs. More than 150,000 people have been fired. The rate of job cuts has increased, and by the looks of it, it won't slow down anytime soon. Major companies are preparing for a second round of layoffs. Take Amazon, for example. Earlier, it cut 18,000 jobs. Now it plans to fire another 9,000 workers. Facebook's parent company Meta fired 11,000 employees. In the second round, it plans to cut another 10,000 jobs. And India is not insulated from all of this. These are global companies with a global workforce. Plus, they have a domino effect on India's tech ecosystem. Companies which were being celebrated as unicorns until recently are now firing people. Byju's let go of 4,000 employees. Unacademy fired 1,500 people. Ola, 1,400. And Vedantu, over 1,000. So this is happening across the board. And this is being linked to the pandemic. You see, during lockdowns, our lives moved online. We were working and socializing online. Our dependence on technology shot up. So tech companies hired aggressively to meet that demand. In fact, I have some numbers. Amazon's workforce grew by 106%. Meta, Facebook's parent company, saw hirings increase by 103%. Salesforce, 67%. Alphabet, 64%. Microsoft, 53%. But now the lockdowns are gone. People have gone back to the old normal and the tech expansion bubble has burst. Demand has fallen. These companies don't need so many workers anymore, so they're downsizing. They did not factor in this scenario, and now they admit it was a mistake. Just look at the statements of tech CEOs as they announced layoffs. They all say the same thing. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said, and I'm quoting, "I got this wrong and I take responsibility for that." Salesforce chief executive Mark Benioff said, and I'm quoting, "We hired too many people and I take responsibility for that." Former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey said, "I grew the company size too quickly. I apologize for that." He said this after Musk took over Twitter. You see, they're all saying the same thing. But to say you got it wrong when you have millions parked in your bank does not really help the employees who lose their jobs. And more worryingly, we've not seen the worst of it. There's a scary prediction from Dr. Doom. We're talking about top economist Nouriel Roubini, the one who accurately predicted the 2008 global financial crisis. That's why he earned the nickname Dr. Doom. And now the same Dr. Doom is predicting a quote-unquote severe recession in the US. He says, and I'm quoting, "There is a Bermuda Triangle of dangers." What does that mean? Roubini has identified three major risks: high levels of debt, declining values of assets, and falling incomes. These three together could lead to recession. But let me add this here. A lot of his predictions in the past have also gone wrong. Though this time, a lot of experts agree that there's a perfect storm building up. And if it lands, layoffs will not be limited to the tech space. And speaking of layoffs, it seems the US has been laid off too. It is no more the preeminent power in West Asia. West Asia, or the Middle East as the US calls it, is realigning. And the latest headline involves Syria and Saudi Arabia. They are re-establishing diplomatic ties, and Russia is said to be brokering the deal. Earlier this month, Iran and Saudi Arabia came together, and China claimed to have brokered that deal. So two major developments, and the US was out of both of them. It seems peace is coming to West Asia, and it's coming without the help of American firepower. The significance of this for the region and the world cannot be overstated. Let's tell you what happened yesterday. Reports said Syria and Saudi Arabia were resuming ties.
A source in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs revealed to Al Ikhbariya that ongoing talks have started with the Syrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In a comment on what was circulating by some international media, the source said that within the kingdom's keenness to facilitate necessary consular services to the people, a discussion is underway between officials in the kingdom and their counterparts in Syria about resuming the provision of consular services.
The deal is still work in progress. It's expected to be sealed after Eid al-Fitr. That's on the 21st of April. And there are still apprehensions that it may not sail. But the progress so far and the fact that it's happening is a big step forward. You see, Syria has been a pariah state. It's ruled by President Bashar al-Assad. I say ruled and not led because he's not shown much leadership, frankly. For over a decade now, the Arab world has cut ties with him. It happened after the Arab Spring of 2011. Assad unleashed a brutal crackdown on protesters. His actions led to a civil war, a war that is still going on. The Arabs began calling for Assad's ouster. They began supporting the rebels in Syria. The rebels were fighting the Syrian regime, Assad's regime. So Gulf nations and the US supported these rebels. Then Russia and Iran entered the picture. They supported the Assad regime. And the tide of the civil war turned. The fighting has been on for more than 10 years, like I said. Entire cities have been razed to the ground. Millions have fled their homes. But Assad has clung to power. And he's done so with the help of Russia. Recently, he visited Moscow. And there he spoke about the need to rebalance the world order.
Our stance doesn't only stem from the strong friendship that we have, nor does it stem from the loyalty you have shown us. Our stance comes from the world's need today for rebalance. Otherwise, the world will head toward explosion and destruction.
It's a bit rich coming from a man who gassed his own people to death. But in politics, past crimes are forgotten to pursue future gains. And so Syria is being welcomed back into the Arab fold. Iran and Saudi Arabia have buried the hatchet. Russia and Saudi Arabia have joined hands to control the oil market. So a proxy war in Syria does not make sense anymore. The Saudis are talking. The Russians want to play peacemakers, and the Syrians may be able to end their global isolation. Basically, it suits everyone, except for the US, which is nowhere in the picture. In the last few weeks, Bashar al-Assad has been traveling. He visited the UAE and Oman. They made it look like a post-earthquake outreach. You know, apart from Turkey, Syria also suffered because of the quakes last month, and the Arabs are now giving humanitarian assistance. But this was also a way to re-induct Assad into the international fold. And Saudi Arabia is leading this front, this effort. Its foreign minister said there is growing consensus that Syria should be brought back into the Arab League. Syria was booted from the league in 2011. Now it may rejoin. The next Arab League summit will be held in the month of May, and the Saudis will host it. Where does all of this leave the US? What is America doing while the West Asian countries realign? America is bombing Syria. It carried out multiple airstrikes last night. These were in eastern Syria. The targets were groups aligned with Iran. The US blames them for a drone attack that took place yesterday. The attack led to 1 death and 6 injuries, so the Americans are raining fire now. But even with all this firepower, they're losing in this game. US allies are striking peace deals against its wishes. Meanwhile, Russia is doubling down. Reports say Russian jets fly over American military bases almost every day now. It's as though the US is being hemmed in from all sides. Could this be the end of the US dictating moves in West Asia? Honestly, that's still probably a long way off. But it's certainly the beginning, and perhaps the US realizes this. Reports say it's relocating advanced fighter jets from West Asia to the Pacific and Europe. It is sending aging planes to West Asia instead. The US is reportedly looking to focus on China and Russia and perhaps leave West Asia to look after itself, which it's doing anyway. Remember, Joe Biden had promised to make Saudi Arabia a pariah on the global stage. Now it seems it's Saudi Arabia that is making the US an outcast in the region. The war in Ukraine is hurting India. It is hurting India's defense supplies. Russia is not being able to honor its commitments. It has not been able to deliver the military supplies that India was promised. This disclosure comes from the Indian Air Force. It's part of a report that was submitted to a parliamentary committee. I have a copy with me. And this is what the IAF said about Russian deliveries. I'm quoting, "There is a major project where the deliveries have been stopped because of the war going on. So we had a major delivery this year, which is not going to take place. They have given us in writing that they're not able to deliver. That is why the major part of projection has been reduced." The they in this report are the Russians. And the war in Ukraine is the reason behind the delay, as the report also says. Presumably, Russian manufacturers are busy supplying to their own military, and the sanctions against Russia could have a role to play there too. Weapon makers might not be able to get the supplies they need, so the Indian Air Force has had to slash its procurement budget. The budget for capital expenses has been reduced. Earlier, the Air Force had planned to spend about $10 billion. It has now been reduced to around $7 billion. And let me repeat, this was not an off-the-cuff remark. This was part of a submission to lawmakers to the Parliament of India. So which major project has Russia not been able to deliver? The report does not say that, but it's not really hard to figure out. The Indian Air Force has been expecting two major deliveries. One is the S-400. The S-400 Triumph Air Defense System. It's a surface-to-air missile system primarily used to deal with aerial threats. When an adversary engages in an aerial attack, the S-400 detects it. It calculates its trajectory, then fires missiles at it to counter and neutralize the threat. That's how it works. In 2018, India had ordered 5 S-400s from Russia. The deal was worth $5.4 billion for 5 systems. 3 of them have been delivered. The remaining 2 are awaited. A few weeks back, it was said that the deliveries will come this year, but now we're not so sure. The second major need is that of spare parts. The Indian Air Force still has Russian planes in its fleet, like the Su-30 MKI and the MiG-29. They are a mainstay of the IAF. And for smooth operations, you need spare parts. Now, thanks to the war, they could be in short supply. What do the Russians have to say about this? A comment was published in Reuters today. It is from the Russian embassy in New Delhi. Let me read it out for you. We don't have information which may confirm the stated. That's all it says. Basically, Russia is not saying anything, but it remains India's biggest arms supplier. It accounts for 45% of India's defense imports. Since 2017, India has spent $18.3 billion on arms imports, and out of this, $8.5 billion have gone to Russia. So the dependence is still very high. But India is diversifying. It is getting more military supplies from France, the US, and Israel. Make in India in defense is also getting a push, and now Russia's shortages might force India to diversify more aggressively. According to some reports, it's already happening. Last year, a US official said that Washington is in quote-unquote deep talks with New Delhi. Of course it is. For the longest time, America has been trying to sell its weapons to India. India is the world's biggest arms importer, and the Americans want a share of the pie. Let me quote from that US statement. This is what it says. Russia is no longer a reliable weapons supplier. Indian representatives are coming to understand that there could be real benefits for them in finding other markets. We have been in deep conversation with India about the fact that we want to help them have options to diversify here. The conversation might have happened. Remember, the Americans wanted to sell their missile defense system to India as well. It's called the THAAD. But India chose Russia's S-400. Now the US sees a new opening. But history tells us that they're not a reliable partner. So India will have to make its moves carefully and ideally make its weapons at home. Hindenburg has struck again, and this time it's not an Indian company. This time the target is Jack Dorsey, the tech billionaire, the founder of Twitter. And this attack is not about Twitter. Hindenburg is targeting Dorsey's second venture, a company called Block. It has multiple subsidiaries. Block's core business is mobile payments. And this is what Hindenburg is aiming at. It has already inflicted damage. Jack Dorsey has lost more than $500 million. And his company Block is threatening to sue Hindenburg. So what are Hindenburg's allegations? It says that Block inflates user numbers. The numbers are artificial, and that it facilitates fraudulent transactions, even caters to criminals, those who are engaging in sex trafficking. This is a wide range of allegations. Let me bring you the specifics. First, the fake accounts that it talks about. In this report, Hindenburg mentions claims by former employees. They estimate that 40 to 75% of the accounts in Block were fake. They were either involved in fraud or are additional accounts tied to one user. It found multiple fake accounts under the name Jack Dorsey. Elon Musk and Donald Trump have dozens of fake accounts. That's what Hindenburg claims that they found. And that's not the end of it. They took it a step further. Hindenburg got creative to prove this fraud. They created a fake account in the name of Donald Trump, and then they ordered a debit card. Guess what? The card came. Hindenburg has shared a photo of it. That's the debit card in the name of former US President Donald J. Trump. We hope this is not a deep fake. But if this is true, then Jack Dorsey is a target of impersonators on his own app, and his troubles don't end there. The next set of allegations is far more serious. Hindenburg says Block is regulated like the Wild West. The fake accounts are giving cover to criminals. They're referring to an app called Cash. This app is run by Block, the app called Cash. It is used to send money. A report in 2022 called the Cash app a $700 million monster. A $700 million monster. It mentions a case. A user was caught selling a stash of videos. They were of child sexual abuse. This man was caught selling them for $45. And the mode of payment was Dorsey's Cash app. The user did not realize that the transaction was a trap. It was set up by an undercover law enforcement officer. Apparently, the app is used by sex traffickers too. The Hindenburg report features this piece from 2021. It carries claims by an expert. I have a copy with me. This is what it says. When it comes to sex trafficking in the US, by far the most commonly referenced platform is Cash app. Then there's a case linked to criminal gangs. They name themselves after this app, the Cash App Gang. That's what they call themselves. They were charged in 2021. What for? For the distribution of fentanyl in a neighborhood. The charges were grave. Listen to what the Hindenburg report says about this. Former employees described how Cash App suppressed internal concerns and ignored user pleas for help as criminal activity and fraud ran rampant on its platform. This appeared to be an effort to grow Cash App's user base by strategically disregarding anti-money laundering rules. Block has defended itself. It called the Hindenburg report factually inaccurate and misleading. The company says it is exploring legal action, but the damage is done. Their stock has collapsed by 15%, all thanks to the hit job by Hindenburg. They made headlines recently for shorting India's Adani Group. And on that front, the dust has not settled. With this second report, Hindenburg is only playing to its strengths, the policy of shock and awe, and the ruin of companies.
En guerre. Toute l'action du gouvernement et du parti.
France is burning. The fire is fueled by people's growing anger. Yesterday, the protest took a violent turn. It was the 9th day of strikes across the country, but the first of coordinated action. Workers staged a nationwide protest. More than 1 million people took to the streets. This is according to the government. Unions claim the number was much higher, 3.5 million. Soon, people's fury caused flare-ups. Protesters clashed with the police. They set fires, launched smoke bombs, and damaged property. The entrance of the Bordeaux City Hall was set ablaze. Flights were disrupted, and airport terminals blocked. Trains were cancelled and electricity output was cut. Tear gas and water cannons were used to disperse the crowds. In total, at least 450 people were arrested. 123 police officers were injured. What's behind this public anger? The proposed pension reform. It aims to increase the retirement age from 62 to 64. It's been a very unpopular proposal from the very beginning. But the French president, Emmanuel Macron, remains defiant. He rammed the legislation through the assembly last week, and his recent interview was the last straw, perhaps. He defended the reform. He said it would be implemented this year.
More we wait, the worse it will get. And so, this reform is necessary. I say this to the French people. I do not enjoy this. I would have preferred not to do this. But it's because of a sense of responsibility. And I express my commitment in front of you.
It may be his sense of responsibility, but as of today, people hold him responsible for the chaos. They're calling him stubborn. They say he wants to keep the retirement system financed at their cost. But Macron is not backing down, and neither are the protesters. They've planned another round of strikes for next Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Because France was supposed to get a high-profile guest on that day, Britain's King Charles. He was due to visit Bordeaux, making it his first foreign state visit rather, as a monarch. But he has cancelled the trip today, and it's not shocking. People were not thrilled about the visit. There were calls to cancel it. They refused to roll out the red carpet for the king. And we mean it literally. Union workers snubbed the king. They refused to provide red carpets, flags and furniture for his reception. Well, King Charles has always had bad timing. He's probably used to it. But the Macron government may not be able to sustain it beyond a point. Why are they so adamant about the pension reform? You see, the French pension system is generous. It's a point of pride for them. But there's a problem. The French spend more time in retirement than they spend working, meaning an average adult's life has more years of retirement than work, at least as compared to their European peers. And this leads to increased public debt because your pension bill is very high. An aging population only makes it worse. And France already has one of the highest public debts in Europe. So in the long run, they do need a pension reform. But right now, the French economy is under no immediate threat. Now, let's say the retirement age is increased to 64. It will still be one of the lowest in the industrialized world, and 64 is the average global retirement age. So what explains all the fuss over it? Why are the French so angry? They say the reform is unfair. It hits the poor and the low-skilled workers. They start working earlier in life. Their life expectancy has increased. In France, it is 85 years for women, 79 years for men, but mortality numbers differ among classes. For instance, nurses live 7 years less than other women. Blue-collar workers live 6 years less than executives. Only 40% of the poorest survive till the age of 80, but among the wealthy, 75% of the people live till 80. Women's pension is 40% lower than men's. They say working longer adds insult to injury. The protesters also say that Macron has disregarded other proposed solutions, like taxing the wealthy or taxing companies.
I have the feeling that the country is facing a general despondency and that this pension reform symbolizes the population's general bitterness, a denial of democracy of which we all are victims, in fact.
I gave up part of my salary and went part-time to be able to enjoy my retirement life. This is not justified.
We will go again tomorrow. We will repeat this blockade to show the government.
It scares me for my parents. I know that my mother works in emergency medical services. She puts in 48 to 60-hour weeks, 12-hour shifts, night and day. She comes home, she is completely worn out. She is 56 years old. I don't want her to work until she is 64.
This is why 70% of the French are against the reform. About 67% disapprove of President Macron, and he's aware of all of this. Macron says, and I quote, "It is in the greater interest of the country. Between opinion polls and the national interest, I chose national interest." While that may be true, the ultimate choice always rests with the people. They can hurt his ballot. This protest is the longest opposition movement since he came to power. In fact, things are so bad for him that guess who's trolling him? Iran. Their foreign ministry has urged France to listen to protesters and avoid violence. A textbook example of the pot calling the kettle black. But for Macron, it's a big test. As he tries to save the economy, will he end up losing his own job? Now to North Korea. I don't remember the last time they made news for something positive. Not even the Wuhan virus. For the longest time, they said they had no positive cases. Now, North Korea has become a serial missile launcher. If it was an attention-seeking tactic, it's not really delivering. It got sort of repetitive and boring. So Kim Jong-un has come up with something new. How about something that can trigger a nuclear tsunami? Pyongyang claims to have tested such a weapon, an underwater drone that can unleash a nuclear tsunami. North Korea says the drone can destroy an entire naval strike group and port. So what is this beast that North Korea has tested, and should the world be worried about it? Here's a report.
North Korea has tested a new weapon, a nuclear-capable underwater drone, a drone that can cause a radioactive tsunami. This is from when the drone hit its underground target. North Korea says this explosion could be nuclear too. The state-run Korean Central News Agency called the drone an unmanned underwater nuclear attack craft, or HAIL. The underwater craft cruised through North Korea's eastern coast for at least 59 hours before it detonated. The North Korean media, bombastic as it always is, said this: "The mission of the underwater nuclear strategic weapon is to stealthily infiltrate into operational waters and make a super-scale radioactive tsunami through underwater explosion to destroy naval striker groups and major operational ports of the enemy." It added that the weapon has been in development since 2012 and that it has already undergone more than 50 tests just in the past 2 years. It's hard to verify these claims, but it's best to err on the side of caution. Pyongyang claims it has the capacity to level entire naval strike groups and that the drone can be carried on ships, not necessarily military-grade naval ships. It can be transported on modified merchant ships as well. Why is Kim Jong-un doing all this, the missile launches and the drone tests? To send a message to the United States, South Korea and Japan that it can launch a nuclear attack in multiple ways. It has tested several platforms to launch nuclear weapons: underground silos, submarines, rail cars, mobile missile launchers that can be moved on roads, and now underwater drones. North Korea isn't the first country to test such a weapon. Russia is part of this club too. Russia produced the first set of Poseidon nuclear-capable super torpedoes in January this year. And the features bear an eerie resemblance to North Korea's nuclear tsunami drones. These weapons can create radioactive waves, destroying everything in their path. North Korea also claims to have launched several cruise missiles on Wednesday, taking the total number to more than 17 in the last 3 months. It's demonstrating its ability to carry out tactical nuclear strikes if a war breaks out. The tests are timed to match joint drills by the US and South Korea. They're calling the exercise Freedom Shield. It's their largest exercise in 5 years. North Korea is spooked and preparing for war. It's enrolling millions of soldiers as volunteers and firing all sorts of weapons to flex its muscle.
And it was an action-packed Thursday at Capitol Hill. TickTock CEO was on the hot seat. His name is Shu Zi-Chu, and he was grilled for close to 6 hours. This was by the US House Energy and Commerce Committee. They did not pull any punches. Both Republicans and Democrats came together to take on TickTock. At times, it appeared like US lawmakers were scolding the TickTock boss. And the whole exchange was broadcast live, not just in the US, but across the world. TickTock has become a symbol of America's fight with China. It's caught between a rock and a hard place. It must either cut ties with China or face a ban in the US. Our next report tells you more.
There are some days when you just can't put up a brave fight because you got overwhelmed. Also because you're alone with nobody to back you, facing off a sea of adversaries. That's what happened to TickTock CEO Shu Zi-Chu on Thursday. He got cornered by the US House Energy and Commerce Committee as both Democrats and Republicans mounted an offensive against the video app. Have a look.
Mr. Chu, as CEO of TickTock, why have you not directed your engineers to change this source code?
Congressman, thank you for the question.
Have you directed them to change the source code?
Like what we are offering and
Yes
my
or
fourth
no?
commitment?
Have you directed them to change that source code?
Congressman, if you give me a bit of time to just
No,
explain this.
I don't. It's a yes or no question. Have you directed your engineers to change that source code?
I'm not sure I understand.
Why are you allowing TickTock to continue to have the capacity for censorship, and yet you claim here that you don't? Let me remind you of something. Do you realize that making false and misleading statements to Congress is a federal crime?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Congressman, you are an expert on this. You could agree with me that no other company
TickTok
does
source
this.
code is the same as Doan? What percentage?
It's a global collaborative effort, like a lot
Was
of
it
code for a lot
developed
of
in,
companies.
was it developed in China? Some of it?
Some of it is.
Similar scenes played out for about 6 hours. A few times, the TickTock boss was able to land a few punches himself, like this.
So, Mr. Chu, would TickTock be prepared to divest from ByteDance and Chinese Communist Party ties if the Department of Treasury instructed you all to do so?
Congressman, I said in my opening statement, I think we need to address the problem of privacy. I agree with you. I don't think ownership is the issue here. With a lot of respect, American social companies don't have a good track record with data privacy and user security. I mean, look at Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. Just one example.
Shou Zi-Chu raised an important point. American big tech companies have a lot of data in their possession too. Is the US Congress contemplating an outright ban against these companies? The Americans sidestepped the question, and in some cases, they exposed themselves. Their questions showed how little they understand technology.
Mr. Chu, does TickTock access the home Wi-Fi network?
Only if the user turns on the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry, I may not understand the...
So if
Does TickTock have access to the home Wi-Fi network? That was a Republican lawmaker, leaving the TickTock CEO briefly speechless. And these are the people who framed tech laws. This grilling was pure politics. America has given TickTock two choices: either leave China or the US, cut ties with the Chinese parent company ByteDance, or face a ban in America. China is furious. It says it will oppose a forced sale of TickTock, and that such attempts undermine the confidence of global investors in America. But global powers are in America's camp. The UK, Canada, and New Zealand have banned TickTock from government devices. Same with European Union countries like Norway, Denmark, and Belgium. The European Union has also imposed curbs. All this started with India in 2020. India imposed a blanket ban on TickTock. This was in response to China's incursions into Indian territory. TickTock is now under global pressure, and it must take a call soon. It's facing restrictions across countries, and a ban in the US, where it has 150 million users, would be the biggest setback after the ban in India.
On to a Vantage exclusive now. It's from a country called Malawi. It has been hit by Cyclone Freddy. It's the longest ever storm on record. More than 400 people have lost their lives. Around 350,000 have been affected. The damage caused by the floods has been immense. International aid has just started trickling in, but will it be enough? Is the West doing enough to mitigate the impact of climate change? Was Malawi prepared for a disaster like this? And what kind of support does it seek from India? Remember, New Delhi holds the presidency of the G20 this year. Can it use this position to do more on climate change? Joining us to talk about all of this is the president of Malawi, Lazarus Chakwera. President Chakwera, welcome to Firstpost. Your country is reeling under the longest ever storm on record. How are you doing?
Well, we are a country in mourning, and it's been one of those things that have hit us so hard. In fact, we've never seen anything on this level because it's been incrementally becoming more and more devastating. And so Cyclone Freddy has wreaked its havoc on almost half of the country in the south and southeastern parts of Malawi.
What kind of assistance are you getting from the international community now?
We have gotten assistance in terms of food, shelter, tents, supplies of medicines, and even helicopters and fuel to put in those helicopters to enable people access those camps and places where they have been hitherto inaccessible. And so we have had a response from within the country, NGOs, as well as government ministries and departments and agencies, and then business people. We've had multilateral help from our neighbors across the region in Africa, as well as from Europe, USA, and so forth.
At COP meetings and on other platforms, the debate has been about who will pay to mitigate the impact of climate change, who should bear the cost. The West has a history of emissions, but is it doing enough, according to you, as the global South balances its emission commitments with its development needs?
You know, when you're looking at countries like Malawi, and you see the vulnerability, you see even such countries that have least contributed to the present climatic problems, you begin to wonder, because it's not a matter where developed nations that have developed on the back of destroying the environment are denying that fact. They actually acknowledge that fact, and they have made pledges in order for them to kind of assuage their troubled consciences. But it's not enough, and this is why we need to really rally behind such vulnerable nations that are in the pathway of the tragic occurrences of this nature.
My final question to you, Mr. President. India holds the presidency of the G20 this year. It is helping set the global agenda, which was hijacked first by the pandemic and then by the war in Ukraine. What is your message for the Indian leadership?
In fact, I'm very, very grateful, Prime Minister Modi, for his message of solidarity with the Malawian people. And I'm grateful for his leadership. What I am pleading for is the fact that these matters should not just be discussion points at conferences. They should be taken seriously. And people are dying, people are suffering. And those that have the wherewithal to help need to do so. It's not a matter of charity. We are talking about multilateralism that says not one nation will be able to meet these needs by themselves. All of us need to work together to make sure that the answers we already have proposed are worked on.
Thank you for your time, President Chakwera.
I appreciate you so much.
As we head into the spring cleaning season, our last story is about something that's sweeping the internet. Cleanfluencers. They're dusting up a storm, and we're here for it. Who are these Cleanfluencers? They're online gurus, mostly seen on TickTok and Instagram. They provide cleaning tips. They show us how to organize our closet or fold clothes better. They share tips on storing vegetables correctly and keeping our pillows clean. Essentially, tips on how to maintain our homes, workplaces, and lives better. And with every video, even if it's that of a vacuum cleaner running back and forth, they pull us in. This trend has exploded. It's got about 70 billion views on TikTok, more than 8 million posts on Instagram. What's behind this popularity? The videos are surely educational. Like, who knew that we should be soaking pillows in a bath full of bicarbonate soda once a year?
How on earth are you supposed to know? It's not some instinct to pick up a duster and a can of furniture polish. We're not born learning how to vacuum a carpet. It's something you have to be shown.
But there's more to the story. Cleanfluencers could be getting a helping hand from declutterers. I'm sure you've heard of the fastidiously well-organized Marie Kondo. Cleaning stars like her have shown people the importance of tidying up, and decluttering books and TV shows only help the case. Every time a fad picks up, social media jumps in to boost it further. It's the same case with Cleanfluencers and millions of cleaning videos flooding our feeds every day. But why are people enthralled by this? What's so intriguing about a carpet getting deep cleaned? Psychologists say it completely makes sense. Homes are an extension of us, and they can give important psychological clues about our mental state, traits, and processes. So when we are tidying up our homes, we're literally tidying up ourselves. That's what they say. Watching cleaning videos also soothes our brain. We have to process a large amount of complex information every day, so these cleaning videos help us take a breath. And there's a scientific reason behind this. Rote activities do not need much processing power, like folding clothes or scrolling through our phones. So they give our brain temporary rest, a chance to recover.
For me, it's just like therapy. So if I have something on my mind or I'm feeling anxious or stressed that day, I'll just start cleaning, and I feel like it's just takes my mind off things, and then I feel more relaxed afterwards.
And though this rise of cleanfluencers can seem modern, it is centuries old really, spread across cultures, and we don't have to look too far for examples. Our grandmothers have been doing it for years, like using basic items available in our kitchens to clean better, while they transform our homes and lives. There are some bigger examples too. Like in 1861, when a 25-year-old homemaker became a cleaning sensation, she published a book on household management. It was all the rage. The urge to clean has been rooted in our cultural consciousness. Spring is seen as a time to start afresh. Like in China, ahead of the Lunar Year, people clean their homes to cleanse the home of bad luck. Iran's tradition of spring cleaning roughly translates to shaking the house. The Iranians believe they're using cleanliness to keep evil away. Many Hindus in India do the same before Diwali, and religious overtones aside, cleaning has been important as seasons change. Like in northern climates, where cleaning rids a home of soot and coal dust after winter, cleaning has also transformed over time. Look at the new cleaning hype on social media, eco-cleaners. They mix environmentalism with hygiene, and they make us aware of how we are cleaning, like the chemicals we use or the waste we accumulate when we throw out our clothes. But while cleanfluencers have grown in importance, they've also come under a lot of fire. Sometimes their advice does more harm than good. Other times, they only promote specific products they advertise for, earning as much as $15,000 at a time. This is important to bear in mind when we look to them for advice, because they aren't going anywhere, especially in today's time. An example may explain this better. The rise of professional declutterers in Japan coincided with the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. What are we talking about? It's when life seems uncertain and social unrest looms large that people want to reassess their lives, to really understand what's important for them. Sometimes this means reassessing the material things we own and decluttering. Other times, it's wanting to sleep on fresh sheets to momentarily escape stress.
You can't control what's happening on the world stage. You can't control wars in other countries or bad things that are happening. But you can make your socks look nice and pair them up and put them in a drawer and feel satisfied.
So as the world grows grim, everything begins to look more like trash, and cleaning is all the more comforting. Seems like it's spring cleaning for both our homes and our minds. And finally, Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. We're starting with Israel. Thousands marched in a controversial anti-reform protest and rocked Israel's ultra-Orthodox neighborhood with fireworks. Speaking of protest, the French president, Emmanuel Macron, marched on the streets protesting the pension reform he has backed relentlessly. No, this is not in a parallel universe. It's the world of AI. AI-generated deepfakes show Macron at the heart of the current protests, and they've taken the internet by storm. And talking about rare sights, South Korea's Seoul saw one in real life. A zebra escaped a zoo and bemused pedestrians. It was recaptured by rescuers. And today in history, democracy came to Bhutan in 2008. The South Asian country held its first democratic election. The result was shocking. The people went on to overwhelmingly reject a party led by the king's uncle. We're leaving you with the images. Thanks for watching.
Vantage